everybody. Well, on this video what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the intestinal part of the gastrointestinal tract, namely the small intestine. And what they usually use is as by default they kind of use the duodenum as for the small intestine. A lot of these terms will be repetitive, but at least you'll have three different versions of histological models of the small intestine. Okay, so let's look at this model right here. All right, this is the small intestine model. Okay, all right. Duodenum is pretty important of the small intestine because the small intestine is going to be receiving the chyme, which is a very acidic kind of applesauce consistency substance that comes, food or nutrients that come out of the stomach. So one of the functions of the duodenum is to meet that acidic chyme. Pancreas will secrete bicarbonate ions that dump into the duodenum to ensure that that chyme does not damage the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine is called the duodenum, which is typically this model, and it's about 9 to 12 inches long. And then the next part of the small intestine is the jejunum, which is about 10 feet long, and then the ileum will be 12 feet long. So all three of those parts, the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum, in that order, make up the small intestine. And if you just even get the total length in feet in there, that's about 23 feet. Okay, so this is just a part of the cylinder of the duodenum. So if you're looking at a duodenum, it's like a tube. So what we're doing is getting a thickness of the wall of it. So this is going to be the outer part of it. Outer part, and the outer part is called the serosa, or the visceral peritoneum. Okay, then you have this basement membrane. Okay, and then as you go up, you're going to have this part here, which is called the muscularis externa. These two layers right here, and the muscularis externa is smooth muscle that goes behind the food, and then what it does is that it with something called term called peristalsis moves the food from behind and then pushes it forward, and it does it in segments, okay, in sections. So this muscularis externa is a smooth muscle that gets behind the food, pushes it forward, and then you have this rhythmic contraction, kind of like when you see a snake eating. But a snake after it eats its food, you can see how the food is moving like a ball through its body, section, then it stops, and then it moves again, then it stops. That's because of the muscularis externa. Okay, and that muscularis externa is stimulated by this nerve plexus called the RBAC or myenterics plexus, and that's just going to provide the nerve stimulation for the smooth muscle to contract. Okay, so let's go next to our next layer of the small intestine. This is the submucosa. From here to here, from this to this pinkish color to this pinkish color up here, kind of pinkish, I guess, but these two colors, that space in between is called a submucosa. Okay, and the submucosa is going to have a couple things. It's going to have this, which is a lymph follicle or lymph nodule. Okay, and this is going to have white blood cells inside of it, which is going to help fight any kind of bacteria that somehow made it through the acidic kind of the stomach, which is like a pH of 1. So so this is going to be part of the lymphatic system. And then you're also going to have this structure here, which is called the Brunner's gland, or the submucosal gland, or the duodenal gland, and it's going to release its contents up here through this duct and into the lumen, which is the space inside the tube, so it can be able to buffer the pH of the acidic chyme. And these are just some blood vessels here. I think these are from the superior mesenteric artery and vein, smaller tributaries from those two, and because the superior mesenteric artery provides oxygen-rich blood to the small intestines and 2/3 of the large intestine, and in reverse, the superior mesenteric vein will take back the carbon dioxide and bring those nutrients eventually to the liver, so it can so the liver can metabolize those lipids, carbohydrates, and amino acids. Okay, so let's go up here now to the muscularis mucosa, which is this next layer, muscularis mucosa. Okay, going all the way across. And the muscularis mucosa, what that helps is it's more like fine movement of the mucosa, which is this next layer up here. So as the muscularis externa is kind of moving the food in one direction, hopefully one direction for the most part, then this muscularis mucosa is kind of moving the villi as well to kind of like finish off moving those nutrients forward. Okay, so the muscularis mucosa, and it's stimulated by this nerve plexus in the yellow here, which is called a submucosal plexus. Okay, so the submucosal plexus stimulates this muscle, smooth muscle, and the arbaxomyenteric plexus. Okay, the yellow that you see there, not the green, the yellow, is gonna it's the myenteric plexus, which is gonna move the muscularis externa. All right, so let's go up to the mucosa. The mucosa are going to be made up by villi, which are these finger-like projections, which help reabsorb the nutrients. And also within the villi, which is it's extremely numerous, high and tall, and really close to each other in the duodenum, and even more in the jejunum. So these villi do a lot of absorption. Okay, and then bring that food to the vein, which the vein takes it to the liver, where it can metabolize those nutrients. And inside this villi here you have the lacteal. The lacteal is a lymphatic capillary, and it takes the fat from the food and then it stores it in little vesicles called chylomicrons. And those chylomicrons filled with fat will go to the lacteal, which is a lymphatic capillary, to the lymphatic vessels, which are much bigger vessels. There's some more green ones down here. And eventually those lymphatic vessels will end up going to lymph nodes, like in the video that we talked about with the lymphatic system, the lymphatic vessels, which the main ones will be like thoracic duct and lymphatic duct, and then kind of break down that fat even further within the lymphatic system. Okay, other things here, you have simple columnar epithelium. Okay, simple columnar epithelium, these tall, kind of like long columns, tall buildings here. Those are called simple columnar epithelium. That's the type of epithelium that makes up the small intestines. And then in between, you see these little blue dots, which is called the goblet cells. And the goblet cells also help in buffering the pH, along with the Brunner's gland over here. This gray connective tissue in here, in the mucosa, is called the lamina propria, and this down here is called the intestinal crypts, similar to the stomach with the gastric pits and gastric glands, but the intestinal crypts have cells in here that eventually will replace simple columnar epithelium because it's constantly being used all the time since we're always eating. So these cells kind of wear out pretty quickly and need to be replaced right away. I do believe, here's a little view of it from the side. Intestinal glands. Intestinal glands here. I think that's it. Okay, so that's it for this model. Now what I can do is just take a minute or so for the last two models that are other versions of this and just point out the same structures really quick so you can take a look at it, maybe pause and look at it a little bit better. Okay. Alright, so let's look at this one first. Alright, so pretty much the same thing. Down here is the serosa, the muscularis externa, composed of the longitudinal muscle and the circular smooth muscle, stimulated by the arbaxomyenteric plexus. In this case it's white and the other one was yellow. Here we have the submucosa, the muscularis mucosa, and then we have the mucosa with the villi, which are the finger-like projections. This is probably a jejunum because there's a lot of villi here, really close together, really high. And then here we have the intestinal crypts right here. Okay, or I believe it's the crypts, or the crypts of Lieberkuhn is another name. And then here we have the lacteals, which drain the fat in vesicles called chylomicrons. All right. I think back here it does show. Back here it shows the it's a lymph follicle and lymph nodule. And just know that this lymph follicle and lymph nodule aggregates with other lymph follicles to form a Peyer's patch. is approximately 30 to 40 pairs patches in the distal part of the ileum. And you can actually see it on a microscope slide. It's pretty big. All right, and let me just show you this last model. It's another version. I guess we can say down here is the serosa. Serosa is down below the muscularis externa. And this is the muscularis externa. Remember, the outer one is longitudinal, the inner one circular. Here we have the, grounded by here. Here we have the submucosa. Okay, submucosa. We'll just to simplify things, we'll just say Auerbach's plexus stimulates this muscle, and submucosal plexus stimulates the muscularis mucosa. Then we have here the mucosa with the villi, nice big long villi, finger-like projections. Here you see the intestinal crypts, or the crypts of Lieberkühn, and here you see a magnified version of this bottom part of the, kind of like the gutter-looking structure. And then here you see some cells that, these cells here eventually are like stem cells that regenerate the simple columnar epithelium. Here you can see the lacteal and the lymphatic vessels. And of course the lamina propria is only in the mucosa. Okay, I think that's about it. So those are the 3 different versions of the small intestine models that I have. You know, I kept on repeating the same thing over and over again, so hopefully that will help you in the memorization. All right, hope you like this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Take care, bye.